We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. Come on in. The water's warm. Don't be scared. We're talking college football all night long here, January 16th on a Monday night. Welcome in. Nice to see you, Jose. Nice to see you, Mr. James Foster. Come on in. Don't be shy. Jim Harbaugh is returning to Michigan. Harbaugh is staying. CJ Stroud is leaving. The Seminoles are humming. The Pac-12 is stalling. And there is not going to be any merging going on between the ACC and the Big Ten. We're going to cover it all here at Peek Around the Corner. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Tater Tots is in the house. Rebecca Salisbury's in the house. Okay, you know how it works. I'm going to go through the monologue. I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to try to keep it short tonight. And then I'll get to your comments. Here very soon, here at Peek Around the Corner, we're going to be working on it Wednesday during the day. But here soon, we're going to have the phone lines open for you to call the show. We're still going to be going through the comments, but we're going to be going through phone calls as well. I want to hear your voices. I want to give you more of a chance to express your thoughts, your concerns, your dreams, your cheering, your crying, everything about college football. I want to hear your voice. Call the show. We're going to be starting that up as soon as possible here at Peek Around the Corner. If you want to donate to our channel, help us keep the lights on and to get the phone lines going, just hit that $sign with the comment and I will get you a comment as soon as I possibly can. Okay. Jim Harbaugh is staying at Michigan. I got to tell you, I am surprised. I thought this second time that he was stringing Michigan along, I thought for sure he would be the new Denver Broncos head coach. This is what Michigan president said just about an hour ago. Now, I'm taking this seriously. There's people out there already in the Twitter world who are saying, yeah, but just wait till Jim Harbaugh gets a better offer from Denver or somebody else. Wait till there's another NFL job opening. Jim Harbaugh will go for that as well. I don't think so. I think this basically shuts it down for this cycle, for this year. Jim Harbaugh is coming back to Michigan. President Santaono says, I just got off the phone with Coach Harbaugh, and Jim shared with me the great news that he's going to remain as the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. That is fantastic news. And I have communicated that to our athletic director, Ward Manuel, which the last part of that is kind of odd. Jim Harbaugh tells the president, I'm coming back, so the president lets the athletic director knows. It's not quite how it usually works. I'm wondering about the future of the long-term Michigan athletic director, Manuel. I'm wondering what's going on there. I know we get Michigan Wolverines in the house here at Peek Around the Corner plenty of times. But that, I think, should do it. Steve Wilfong of 247, the senior guy there for the recruiting, national recruiting, just a great recruiting analyst. He says, Jim Harbaugh to the NFL has become what John Gruden to college football was. Every coaching cycle, there was rumors. There was people knocking at John Gruden's door. The University of Tennessee is the one major university. But lots of them would say, John Gruden, please come to our university, be our head coach. And we'd go through that every single year. Well, now Jim Harbaugh to the NFL is becoming John Gruden. What used to be John Gruden to college football. No one's going to be hiring John Gruden anymore. But I thought that was a pretty funny line. Before we get to anything else, we still got to talk a little bit more about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Now, this is who they are returning. And I think maybe this played it had to play a major factor in Jim Harbaugh's decision. We all know that Blake Corum is coming back. The great running back, over 1,400 yards. Do you know that he was the number one player rated in Pro Football Focus of all of college football for the offensive side of the field? Blake Corum, the great running back. By the way, you know, he was injured during the playoffs. He would have made a big difference. Okay, so Blake Corum is returning. Donovan Edwards, the other running back who broke off those big runs in the playoff, he was really coming on strong second half of the season. He's coming back. J.J. McCarthy, first year starter for Michigan, he's coming back. Cornelius Johnson, basically the number 2 wideout from last year. He's like a 6-year senior. He's coming back. We don't know about Roman Wilson, or at least I don't know about Roman Wilson, a wide receiver that was coming on. I don't know if he's coming back next year. If someone in the chat room knows, let us know. The linebacker, 6-year linebacker, Michael Barrett, he's coming back. They're 2 great guards. Remember, Michigan won the award again, the Moore Award for the best offensive line in all of college football for the second year in a row. Zach Zinter and Trevor Keegan, both are outstanding guards. Both announced that they're coming back. Chris Jenkins just announced today, had a great season last year for the Michigan Wolverines. Over 50-some tackles. He's coming back next year. So Michigan is absolutely stacked. They're going to be rated number 2 or number 3 in all the preseason polls. Jim Harbaugh, he's also coming back. So watch out for Michigan next year. Hopefully, if they get into the playoffs in 2023 and you're going against a quarterback that you shouldn't be blitzing, hopefully they don't blitz every single play like they did against Max Duggan. Horrific. This is good news for my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers, because I truly believe that PJ Fleck would have been somewhere on that hot board list. Not number one, not the number one external candidate, but he would have been somewhere up there, and I would have had to go to bed at night every single night, terrified. So I'm so glad that Jim Harbaugh is coming back. CJ Stroud earlier today announced that he's entering the NFL draft. He's going to be a top 5 pick. He's going to have a $35 million contract. He's going to probably get a $20 million signing bonus. CJ Stroud, NFL stock skyrocketed during that Georgia game. He won 23 of 34 for 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He was absolutely spectacular. He is striking while the iron is hot. There are reports out of Columbus, Ohio, that he was actually struggling with the decision. And the reason why is this. Excuse me. NIL. Name, image, and likeness. It's given these players the ability, the option to come back for another year, even though they're about to get drafted in the NFL. Name, image, and likeness. It's helping. This is one way it's helping the sport. It's elevating the product of college football, having these quarterbacks come back. Michael Penix is coming back. You can go through a whole list of guys who would have been drafted in the 7th and 6th and 5th round, but they're coming back for another year where they can support themselves, support their families because of NIL. Now, for CJ Stroud, he would have been a top 5 pick. He's going to be a top 5 pick. So he's leaving for the NFL. Congratulations to CJ Stroud. The Seminoles, I got to get to the Florida State Seminoles, and I got to get to the Pac-12 and this ridiculous statement that was put out on Twitter about the possibility and option of ACC and Big Ten merging. Come on, man. That's not happening. But let's get to the Florida State Seminoles. I want to read you something here real quick. Again, going through this as fast as I possibly can. I'll get to your comments. But we do have to talk about what the Florida State Seminoles have been doing since the season ended. And as we all know, Florida State ended the season in great fashion. They had a great season. Mike Norvell has finally flipped that program around. First of all, what do we know? The quarterback, Jordan Travis, is returning. Look at his quarterback rating from last year. He had a great season. The great defensive end. Jared Vars, number 5, explosive. There was no way he was coming back this year. He would have been a top 10 pick in the NFL. He's coming back. He was sensational at ACC football last year. He's coming back. They got Cypress. They got the great cornerback of Virginia, as we all know, a top 5 guy in the transfer portal. We've been through all that, right? But they got Jeremiah Byers, Keandre Jones, Casey Roddick, Brandon Fisk, a defensive tackle. There's a statistic here. They got Byers, all CUSA, Conference USA performer. Fisk was 5th nationally among interior defensive linemen with 48 quarterback pressures. They got the kid from South Carolina who was a full-time starter there, Edmond. I mean, what they've done. Oh, and they've got Johnny Wilson coming back, a receiver. Johnny Wilson, I don't know, 40-some catches last year, almost 1,000 yards, over 20 yards per catch. He's coming back. Florida State is humming. They are humming. They did it all in the transfer portal. They needed to stack the offensive defensive line, and they did that. Jared Vars coming back is just an unbelievable. Florida State, man, I think they're going to be ranked number 4, number 5 in the country in the first AP polls. I know in my way too early national polls that'll be coming out in February, they're going to be top 5. Florida State Seminoles are humming. Pac-12 is stalling. We'll get back. We'll get into that here in your comments because I know we're going to be talking about that. But come on, where is that deal? Where is that media deal? Why hasn't it been produced? I think it's Oregon and Washington. Everything is so quiet. Everything is so quiet. There's not even leaks going to the Sports Business Journal about saying, oh, we're almost there. It looks good. It's going to be this amount of money. We're going to be putting in Amazon and this. There's silence, complete silence. George Kliavkoff, he's running out of time. One last thing. There was a comment. I had about a half a dozen messages come to me. And by the way, keep bringing the messages. Direct message me at Flug Empire. I love it. I get information, on-time information. It helps when you provide links, but sometimes I know you can't. I had questions coming in saying there's just steam coming out of Florida State in their message boards about Florida State, about ACC in the Big Ten working on a merger. A long shot, but they're working on a merger. ACC conference is ready to communicate with the Big Ten. It was all over the place because I got more than one person DMing me, and I'm saying, where is this coming from? Because I know when we talked about here, Peek Around the Corner on December 26th, that story that we had to pull back right before we were going to go on live with it, that had to do with ACC country, right? We had to pull back. This merger, Big Ten, ACC, or any other merger, that's not our story that we're going to produce here in the spring of 2023. That is not the story we are working on. A merger is a potential option. How does that even work? Just think about it. What would the Big Ten get out of it? A merger with ACC. ACC, who's got a contract with ESPN into 2036. ACC, in which the ESPN owns the ACC network. Big Ten owns the Big Ten network. Big Ten is not going to do a merger with the ACC network. The Big Ten schools own a slice of the Big Ten network. How would a merger even work? Big Ten schools have this contract that just signed go from now into 2029, 2030, and the current ACC schools going all the way into 2036. How can this be a potential option? It's not. And I got so much questions and comments on Twitter about it that I had to put it out there saying this is not real. And I'm going to just spend a little bit of time tonight saying, no, it's not a potential option. Is there a story brewing in ACC country that right now is confined to ACC? We believe so. We're going to put it out to you guys when it's ready, when it's best for you and the story. But that is not part of the story. I have been talking for how many minutes? 20 minutes. It's time for me to be quiet, and I'm going to go through your comments right now. Again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Smash that like button. It helps us so much with the YouTube algorithm. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate, just hit the $sign. Help us keep the lights on. We're going to be putting in phone line here so you all can call in to me and we can have a conversation. But mainly how we're going to run it, the phone lines, is I'm going to let you guys have the floor. I'm going to let you guys talk. We'll put up a clock, maybe a 3-minute clock, maybe a 4-minute clock. We'll let you talk. I think that's how we're going to run it. Instead of having a conversation, I think I'm going to let you all say what you really want to say. put out your predictions, put out your theories, put out your information, put out your hopes and dreams about the college football and the next coming season, about players, about schools, about conferences, about everything in college football. I think I'm just going to let you guys have the floor for whatever long time that we agree on. So that's how we're going to run it. Let's get to your comments right now here at Peek Around the Corner. Thanks for joining us. Emergency live show. Jim Harbaugh is staying at Michigan. James Foster going live right on. Thanks, Greg. You are welcome. Joe, hit that like button as you walk in through the door. Thanks, Joe, for the reminder. Rebecca likes the earlier time. Live earlier than normal. Yes. Tater Tots. Notice how the president was the one to announce, notify the AD. Got to think the AD is on the hot seat. Great comment, Tater Tots. That's what we said in the monologue. That last part where I have communicated to our athletic director, Ward Manuel, this great news. That is a very odd statement from the president. You don't see that at all. I think I've got no intel on it, but man, just that statement, I'm a little worried about Manuel's, the athletic director's job security at Michigan. Ted, 2 fifth-year D linemen, Illinois seniors, announced today that they are coming back. The defense is going to be stout again. Yes, probably. Illinois' defense was great last year. Fantastic. Rebecca, bearing a more intriguing job randomly becoming open, he's definitely back at Michigan. I don't think there's any question. Jim Harbaugh, back at Michigan, 2023. Don't think he would have communicated. Look, Jim Harbaugh is an odd duck, just like me. He's an odd duck. But he would not have communicated to the president this. And plus, you know that the president said to Jim Harbaugh, I think we can safely assume that Michigan's president said to Jim Harbaugh, look, I can say this, right? I can put this out in public. And Jim Harbaugh said yes. So yeah, Jim Harbaugh is coming back for the 2023 season. We went through almost all the people who are coming back from Michigan. They are stacked. They're going to be number 3 ranked team in the country at the start of the season. Ted, it makes no sense for the Big Ten to merge with the ACC when they can try to outbid SEC for teams they want after the gore runs out. Just one of the many reasons why this comment, I guess, first of all, it makes no sense. But I guess it originated, someone pointed me to a post on War Chant, which is a Florida State message board, and where somebody said, at the start of his post, he said, I have information that Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, was given 2 directives. One was that Jim Phillips, he had to close the gap of the revenue between the ACC and the Big Ten and the SEC. And number 2, Jim Phillips was given a directive to try to help some of the ACC schools get out of the conference. Makes no sense at all. A commissioner is not being hired by the university presidents of that conference and given a directive to get some of the schools out of the conference and keep. So that right away, that post made 0 sense. And then it made less sense as it went on. And I don't know, there's a guy on Twitter who we talk about here once in a while. We don't say his name, but he trolls. He just puts things out. He just put things out for puts things out for reaction. He put something out where people told me, they gave me a screenshot. We put it up on my Twitter account saying this is a potential option. The Florida State president and the athletic director are trying to get it to where the ACC can somehow go to the Big Ten and offer some sort of merger. It makes absolutely zero sense in so many different ways. It's really not worth talking about it, other than I got a whole bunch of direct messages on Twitter saying, is this real? Is this real? Is this your story of December 26th? No, that is not our story that we have, that we're going to provide you all here in the spring of 2023. It's not the story that we kept back on December 26th at the very last minute. It's about the ACC. The story is not tied directly to the Big Ten or the SEC at this point in time, but it's a story that we'll probably most definitely talk about in the spring of 2023. We got a hold of a story, but we're going to present it to you in the most professional way possible. It has nothing to do with some sort of far impossible, crazy talk of Big Ten and ACC possibly merging together. Ted, until Harbaugh says he has no interest in the NFL, these same rumors will pop up every year. Yeah, probably. I was wrong. I thought he was going to take the Denver job. He's got close connections with the Denver leadership, the ownership, the board. There's people there on the board, the Denver Broncos board, that are connected him through when he was the coach at Stanford University. I didn't think Jim Harbaugh would go down this road again where he'd string Michigan along. So I thought he was going to take it. So, but there's one real, I have to admit, the Michigan Wolverine fans that communicated with me saying that he's coming back, they had one huge ace up their sleeve, and that Michigan is ready to run it back. I mean, they're going to be right there. They're going to win all their games, except for maybe one. They play Ohio State in 2023 at Ann Arbor. So, we'll see. We'll see if Michigan get back to the playoffs. I think they will. Wild Oot, it was a great day for the Wolverines and a bad day for the Bucks. I agree. Also a bad day from my Minnesota Golden Gophers, because we play Michigan. We also play Ohio State. We also play North Carolina. Woo. Man, oh man. Tater Tots. Ted, honestly, doesn't matter. Story will get clicks every year, whether it's true or not. Rumors will always persist. Jim to the NFL's easiest article to rinse and repeat at this point. No question about it, but there was validity in this story. Jim Harbaugh had great interest. And he interviewed with Denver. He went on an interview with Denver. But he's coming back to Michigan. Wild Oot. Yes, it makes no sense for the Big Ten to merge with the ACC. Why in the world would the Big Ten do this? There is no reason. No reason at all. Rebecca Salisbury, some of these guys are getting paid more to stay in college than if they left. Rebecca is absolutely true. That is true. Some of them are getting more money to stay for another year with their NIL agreement with the collectives than if they go to the NFL. We're talking the guys who are 7th round, 6th round, 5th round, 4th round pick, or potential free agents that they don't quite get drafted. Those guys, yes. CJ Stroud, he's going to get a $20 million signing bonus. He's going to get probably about a $35 million contract in total value. The Buckeyes coming, their offensive line coming back next year is younger, less experience. Also, when you consider the 2024 quarterback draft, the quarterback room, the college quarterbacks that will be coming for the 2024 NFL draft is going to be much deeper. Look at Caleb Williams, Drake May, just those two guys alone, they're going to be the number 1 or number 2 guys picked in the NFL draft. So CJ Stroud's timing also works out that he enters the draft this year instead of next year. So obviously there's a lot of, if you read CJ Stroud's announcement that he's going to the NFL, it was always his dream, like it is all these guys. So good luck to him. Congratulations. Joe putting up some, I don't know, what is that, a monster? That looks like me, actually. Rebecca, Big Ten definitely doesn't want most of the ACC. No, they don't. No, they don't. And there was another part of that war chant post that caused all this ripple. Something about there would be horse trading between the ACC and the Big Ten. If that's where this all originated, all this talk about a potential option of an ACC Big Ten merger, if that's where it all originated from that war chant post, I tell you, yikes. Yeah, a lot of comments. I think we're all in agreement. Wild dude, yeah, what's in it for the Big Ten? Big Ten only wants 4 of the 14 ACC schools. How does this merger advance the Big Ten in its wallet? Tater Tots. Sometimes silence can be loud in regards to the Pac-12 media deal. Tater Tots. Great comment. In fact, I have said that previously. In many events, silence speaks loud at times. We talked about at Flug Empire, when we were talking about how Oklahoma, a couple years ago, when we were talking about Texas and Oklahoma, we said they were either going to, what we were hearing, they were either going to jump to the SEC or the Big Ten, all the reasons that we've talked about here since day one at Peek Around the Corner, and they both jumped to the SEC. Texas and Oklahoma, their leadership did not say anything about what the Big 12 was trying to do, improve themselves for months. That silence was speaking loud. During the whole USC situation in the spring, when on March 31st, we said USC called the Big Ten, during those tweets, if you go back to my Twitter account, from March to June 30th, there's a couple times where we said, it's so quiet, so quiet. USC's Mike Bond, the athletic director, and the president, Folt, they're not saying anything. They're completely silent. While all the other athletic directors, or most of the athletic directors in the Pac-12 and the presidents, were talking about how we're working on this in the Pac-12. We're working that. We're trying to improve. But that silence out of USC was speaking very loud. So I understand what Tater Tots is saying. Sometimes silence can be loud. However, I don't know. This is like a Pac-12 media deal, right? Before the SEC, we had all this leaks and steam coming out of SEC country that maybe, CBS wasn't going to pay enough for those Tier 1 games, right? They weren't going to renew the contract to the satisfaction of the SEC. We heard that before that official announcement that SEC moved their Tier 1 from ESPN to CBS. We heard all that steam. The Big Ten steam, we heard it constantly. Optimism, right? We heard all of what Kevin Warren was planning on doing. And then we heard Big 12, Brett Yormark. Oh, we've moved this up. Oh, I think we're encouraged that maybe we can get a deal done with Fox Sports and ESPN. 18 months before they were even scheduled to negotiate inside the exclusive window of their two current media partners. Remember, they moved that all the way up, and Brett Yormark was talking positive. So you do get, most of the time in these media deals, you do get some type of cheerleading from the conference commissioner, try to get people bandied around him, trying to get everybody unified. You sort of hear some optimistic talk. We're not hearing anything. we're not even hearing it from John Wilner or Joe Cazano. John Cazano or Joe Cazano. We're not even hearing it from them. It's just complete silence. Roy, the stuff making its way to SBJ, Sports Business Journal, about Amazon and Pack came from Amazon. I wonder if Pack is working with YouTube or Apple. So in Roy's theory here, he believes it was Amazon leaking information to SBJ. That's very interesting. A lot of people leak stuff to SBJ. When they want something out there and they want to have that message to have credence, to have some oomph behind it, they leak it to SBJ because everybody listens to SBJ when it comes to sports, professional sports, college sports, business deals, right? Media deals. Interesting that, Roy, that you say maybe it was Amazon leaking this stuff, and now because maybe Amazon's taking a step back, we're not getting the leaks to SBJ. Interesting. Man, we haven't heard anything from SBJ in a while in regards to the Pac-12 media deal. I expect every single day, right? Tomorrow, I expect something to happen. I expect something to pop in regards to the Pac-12 media deal. Hasn't happened yet. Ted, I have the Big Ten taking 8 or more before it's all said and done. My guess is 3 ACC and Notre Dame and a Western contingent of 4 more schools to make it a nationwide conference. Of course, the new commish, ? Rebecca, Fox will not work with ESPN after paying all that money for conferences to merge. No way. Well, Fox will always work with ESPN to a certain point. Big 12, they share the media package. The ESPN has more of the football, Fox has more of the basketball, but the Big 12 is the one conference that looks like they're going to have both Fox and ESPN. So they do have to work together at some point. They're going to have to work together in the college football expansion playoffs in 2024, 2025, because I don't think ESPN's going to have all 11 of those games. ESPN's not going to get all the content. Battlestrap says, go Blue Michigan. Michigan fans are all riled up. Jim Harbaugh's coming back. Joe, in 2036, an ACC Big Ten merger would only be worth considering it if it included Notre Dame. Even on that, Big Ten's not going to do it. They're not going to a 32-team conference, adding those ACC schools. That just is not reality. Not happening. Rebecca says Pac-12 silence is golden right now. Something going on behind the scenes for sure. Washington and Oregon most likely driving something. Well, I will say that we haven't heard any steam. We haven't received any intel about Washington and Oregon doing something out of the box. Doing something out of the box. What that is, having Oregon and Washington bundle their content together to do like an independent type of media contract, maybe bundling Oregon, Washington, Utah, and Stanford. We haven't heard any of those crazy out-of-the-box scenarios. No steam whatsoever from national reports. So, the one, we've talked about this in an episode of 2 days ago at Peek Around the Corner. I believe it's episode 131. What is the holdup of the Pac-12? We think it's Oregon and Washington not wanting to sign the traditional grant of rights that has teeth. We jokingly say we think Oregon and Washington will probably sign a grant of rights that's firm but flexible, right? Something that there's an exit hatch that they could leave if some opportunity should appear in front of Washington and Oregon within the next 5, 6, 7 years. We think there's going to be an exit hatch somewhere in that deal. Or something going on behind the scenes with Washington and Oregon mostly driving something would have to do with the unequal revenue sharing. Maybe Oregon and Washington are saying we need more of the TV money. Give less to expansion candidates, San Diego State, Fresno State, or SMU. Figure out some way that Oregon and Washington gets paid more. That's devastating for the stability of the Pac-12, but you got to get a deal done. And you have to include Oregon and Washington. You got to get them in the boat. So maybe that's playing a part of it as well. But I'm surprised. Every single day that goes on and there is no Pac-12 media deal signed, sealed, delivered, and announced, it is surprising. It is surprising. This is not what was planned. George Kliavkoff was not planning this. James Foster, all I can say is that my guy that's connected to the Big 12 athletic directors has been relaying info that certain Pac-12 schools are in nearly daily communications with the Big 12, all while they are claiming to be Pac-12 firm. I probably it's difficult for athletic directors. How do I say this? It's difficult for athletic directors to communicate daily with other athletic directors in other conference. It's basically impossible when it comes to conference realignment, unless their presidents are directing them to do so. So I don't know about that part of the story. But I will say this, James Foster, and it's a tagline here at Peek Around the Corner: cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. But what I've heard, like Rich George, the Colorado Buffaloes athletic director, what he said about a week ago on the John Wilner and Joe Casano podcast, I don't think Colorado is interested in going to the Big 12. So I think the only expansion opportunity to grab another Power 5 program for the Big 12 probably is Arizona. I think the odds are very long for Brett Yormark to successfully poach from the Pac-12. The heavy chalk is the Pac-12 stays together, those 10 schools, and then expand with San Diego State, plus SMU or San Diego State and Fresno State. That's how we read it at Peek Around the Corner. Let me know how you guys read it. But the heavy chalk is the Pac-12 sticks together. That media deal, I'm not as optimistic on. I think the complete total value of the Pac-12 deal, when you throw in the exposure part of it, I think it's going to fall behind the Big 12 in total value. But we shall see. We shall see. Jesse Wilson, Mr. Husky from the great state of Alabama, smash that like button. Listen to Mr. Wilson. Smash that like button. Sean, I'm worried that Oregon and Washington are pushing for an unequal share of the TV contract. We just talked about it. That could be the Gore and the unequal revenue sharing. Remember, you're sitting there in Oregon. You're sitting there in Washington. You kind of know what your value is. You had preliminary talks with the Big Ten, which could help them years down the road. There probably wasn't any other school in the Pac-12 that got preliminary talks with the Big Ten. Maybe Stanford, but that's it. Oregon and Washington read the New York Times article just like we all did when I put it out there at Peek Around the Corner in a live show on Episodes, where it was, I think the writer of the story was Billy Wick. I think that was his name. Where he said there was plans in the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff, if UCLA actually came back, if the University of California Board of Regents actually made UCLA come back to the Big Ten, that UCLA would be paid more than any other Pac-12 school. It would be UCLA at the top, then the next 10 Pac-12 schools, and then San Diego State. There'd be 3 tiers, and Oregon and Washington would not be at the top tier with UCLA. So Oregon and Washington already know that George Kliavkoff, at least these plans were in the back of a napkin. It was reported in the New York Times. There was no pushback from the Pac-12 on this report. So Washington and Oregon already know that the Pac-12 was down the road of doing unequal revenue sharing inside its conference. So what happens? December 14th, UCLA, the decision is made. They get to go to the Big Ten. They have to pay a toll tax, a calimony tax to the University of California Board of Regents, so it's directly to the University of California, Berkeley Athletic Department, what have you. So at that point in time, did Oregon and Washington say to themselves, geez, well, we are the top valued brands here in this conference. This conference just sinks well below the Big 12 if we're not taken care of, if we don't remain in this conference. So Oregon and Washington see everybody else pushing their leverage that they have. So they're probably pushing their leverage on George Kliavkoff, saying, okay, now it's time for you to deliver for us. We're going to stay, but we need unequal revenue sharing. That is a strong possibility, in my opinion. Also, I'll say it again. That grant of rights, we were told, we put it out there in episode 52, way back. Oregon Money Perch said to us, we said it to you. If we can't get in this time, we're going to keep swinging away to get to the Big Ten. But in the meantime, we're not signing any grant of rights that has any teeth involved with it, like teeth that could completely hold them back, like a traditional grant of rights has done in the college football space. Okay. Let's get to your comments. I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. Ted says if Michigan wasn't so loaded for next year, the decision might have been different. But he has a legit shot at the championship. I agree with you, Ted. Wild Oot. Washington and Oregon might be pushing for unequal revenue share, but it ain't gonna work. This is coming from Utah, baby. Utah, Wild Oot, the Utah representative here at Peak Around the Corner. Plus, there's litigation emerging in Washington to tie University of Washington and Wazoo together forever. Till death do they part. You know what? I should have had this cranked up here. Till death do they part. I have read articles on the Washington and Oregon bill. The two people who put that together, I don't think it's going to fly. I don't think it's going to work. First of all, I would be totally against it. I do not want government being involved in these decisions at all. Government has enough to do. I'm not a big government guy to begin with. I don't want them involved in trying to solve college football's issues, college football sports issues. I don't think they should be involved. I do not think they should give college antitrust. I don't believe in any of that. However, Washington and Washington State, they're two separate universities, two separate boards, two separate locations, two separate cultures, two separate everything. They share the same state. Yes, they go by the same state laws, but I just think that would be a mistake. I think that would be an awful mistake. I don't think it's going to, people I've talked to don't believe that's going to pass the muster there in the legislature. So I think if the Pac-12 schools, their fan bases think that that's going to keep the Pac-12 together. I don't think it's going to work. Just like the University of California Board of Regents didn't keep UCLA in the Pac-12, I think you're really messing with something when you start doing that from the outside. Just my opinion. Sean, why are you releasing the December 26th news in the spring instead of now? Are things currently being worked on behind the scenes? Couple reasons why. One is the story is not completely matured yet. There is something working behind the scenes. The end result of that work, we do not know. But the biggest reasons, I was going to go with it, Sean. I was going to go with it. But unlike when USC called the Big Ten and we had that story alone, and then we filtered out that information after we tweeted out, after, we gave out documentation. This story we do not have alone. People know we have the story. I know they have the story. And it was best for us to acquiesce, to stand down. It was an independent decision. We are an independent YouTube channel. We're not tied with anybody. People know of us, but we're not tied. But this was the best decision for you all, for the story, for sure. It did hurt us a peek around the corner because, if we would have put that out there on December 26th, we could be saying, we're the first ones, da-da-da. But there is, there's juice to the story, and we only had half the orange. Maybe not even half the orange. So, however this story turns out, if it gets to the next level, it'll be a story that you would all be interested in. That I can assure you. Wherever it goes, at some point, we're going to be talking about it here at Peek Around the Corner. We are going to be talking about it Peek Around the Corner. I can guarantee you that. But right now, to answer your question, and I'm probably not answering it very well, it just wasn't the right time on December 26th. Not the right time. Matthew Carlson, thank you for your super chat donation. Thank you for your generosity, sir. I appreciate it so very much. You're helping us keep the lights on here, Peek Around the Corner, and you're helping us keep what we haven't started it yet, but the phone lines that are coming in, so y'all can do a phone call and express your opinions, your intel, your information, your dreams about your team in college football. So thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it so much. I also have failed to say thank you. I was going to do this earlier tonight to Daniel Montecastle, Mr. Hoosier. He gave us a nice donation at the end of the last live show. It happened right at the end, and I failed to say thank you to his generosity, his ongoing generosity. So thank you, Danielle, for that donation. Thank you, Mr. Carlson, for this donation. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you so very much. Matthew Carlson, go blue. Jim is staying. Expecting new contract announced soon. Yes. Let's see here. The Athletic put out an article. Yeah, he's getting more money. This came out tonight, and it's going to be an extension. His current contract, Jim Harbaugh's current contract is for 5 years, $7.3 million a year. That's getting jacked up, way up there. I don't have any information to give you right now, but I think that thing's going to be close to $10 million for Jim Harbaugh per season. I forgot to add that in. So much information we're going through tonight. Harbaugh needs to stop buying kids hamburgers since he is staying. Wow, dude. Washington and Oregon would only go to the Big 12 with Cal and Stan do not fit politically with the Big 12 schools, i.e. BYU, Baylor. Recruiting in Cal matters. That's a good point. I don't really see Washington and Oregon going to the Big 12 as an option. If that happened, I would be the most shocked. We don't talk about, here at Peek Around the Corner, I haven't done any deep dives into Washington, Oregon going to the Pac-12. I don't have any definitely California and Stanford. They would have no interest going to the Big 12. So, with Big 10 not being a threat to Pac-12, not being a threat to poach more schools at this time, heavy chalk since the Pac-12 stays together. But that's just one part of the story. They better get, if that TV deal comes in and it doesn't help that conference for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, then all bets are off in the next go around. So the media deal is now the story for the Pac-12. The media deal. What can they get? And the longer as this story goes on without a deal not being signed, delivered, and announced, it's not good news. It's not going to get better as we sit here. It's not going to get better every day for the Pac-12. The media market is tightening up. It's tightening up. Did you see the Jim Harbaugh? WWE, Vince McMahon, he's looking to sell. WWE. He might sell it to the Saudi Arabia investment firm. He might sell it to Comcast, NBC Universal. He might sell it to the Khans, who own AEW and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But there is a report out there, and it's been reported a few times, that Fox and who else distributes WWE content? Help me out in the comments section. Fox does something. Fox does whatever. I don't know. But whoever, the companies, the media companies that distribute WWE content, and I think there's 2 of them, besides Peacock, are losing money like crazy. They're losing money like crazy. What they pay the WWE yearly is like $190 million a year. One media company gives WWE that, and another media company gives them that. But what they get back in ad buys is extremely low. Extremely low. Since the pandemic, the ad buy numbers are coming in lower and lower. We haven't gotten through what the pandemic has done to this economy. So maybe the WWE isn't worth as much as people, like the market cap says it is. Rebecca, thanks guys. Fox does Friday Night, SmackDown, USA. Okay, so those are the 2 media companies. Rebecca, NBC, Universal. Okay, thank you for those comments, Jesse and Rebecca. My point being is, we see, Amazon, they're laying people off. They have a bunch of employees. These media companies are laying people off, and that market is tightening right now. It's bad timing. It's just another reason why the Pac-12's got to get it done. Got to get it done. You want if you're a Pac-12 fan base, if you're part of that, you want that Pac-12 media deal to get done today, tonight, tomorrow. You want to hear reports, because as this goes on, it's only going to tighten on them. It's going to take a while for the media money to break open. People are keeping their money for the NBA content, to really go out there and hit the NBA. But I'm just telling you, you want something to happen soon. We've been saying this for weeks, but really now the story is becoming, why hasn't the deal been done yet? Lannis, if Washington cared about being associated with Stanford in California, they wouldn't be talking to the Big Ten. Rebecca, when Washington State can get their money up to Washington's level for athletics, it'll be a conversation. It would only hurt Washington and help Washington State. Washington doesn't use taxpayer money for its athletics. To bring down the strong, to help the weak, usually just both of them become weak. I mean, that's just how it is. And I'm not saying Washington State is weak. That's not what the point it's not the point I was trying to make. You don't get yourself stronger by bringing somebody down. It just doesn't work. I don't think it's going to pass, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. We're going to follow the story here at Peek Around the Corner. Matt Higgins, great show. Any rumors on Bama, DC? Is Pruitt radioactive? Is Bill O'Brien on any NFL boards? Great question, Matt. I wish I had the answer. I don't think Bill O'Brien. I haven't heard any Bill O'Brien steam. I'm the only one who created any Bill O'Brien steam. I had him somewhere on the Nebraska hot board list at least once or twice for the new coach. I don't see Bill O'Brien. I don't see that steam anywhere. The rumors on the Bama DC, haven't heard anything, but do not take the Golden Gophers, Joe Rossi. Do not take him. He's led the Gophers to a top 10 defense the last 2 years, which is a spectacular result for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, for that type of defense. So don't grab Rossi. I do not know. Don't have any steam on that. Great question, Matt. I'm sorry. I don't have any information for you. Sean, you answered what I wanted to know. Things are still developing behind the scenes. Yes, they are. Ted, Bielema hinted in interviews that he's going to hire his 2 open positions from current NFL assistants. Since it hasn't happened yet, the theory is they are on teams that are still in the playoffs. Thank you for that information, Ted. I'm waiting for Deion Sanders of Colorado to hire former Minnesota Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer. I don't think that's quite happened yet. We've heard steam on it. Deion Sanders even mentioned Mike Zimmer publicly, I think last week, but I haven't heard any announcement. Did I miss it? Let me know in the comments section if I did miss that Mike Zimmer is coming in as some defense analyst, some position for the Colorado Buffaloes. Let me know if I missed it. Joe, how big is the spring story going to be? Well, men's hearts fail them upon hearing. Started to think Jim Harbaugh was boosting his value by flirting with the NFL teams. Don't know how big the story's going to be. I think right now it's big. So I would not have advertised it. I would not have. It's big. Right now it's big. It could grow larger, much larger. But right now it's big. We'll see. Once I tell the story, and I will tell you all the nuts and bolts of it as much as I possibly can. Just like if you go back, if you haven't seen episode 22 yet, A Peek Around the Corner, I explain in detail as much as I possibly could how the USC story was broken to us. We went through all my tweets. We gave you more information than the Los Angeles Times article did. That's how this is going to be. I'm going to go through the nuts and bolts of it. Once we feel like it's the right time, it should come out. Sean, without the Big Ten, what leverage does Oregon and Washington really have? they are not going independent. Maybe they're not going independent, but maybe the threat of going independent. You know, USC threw that out there a few times during the last couple of years. They leaked that out there. Maybe we'll look at independent. Look, it's a long shot. But how much leverage does the Pac-12 have on Oregon and Washington? They both are going to have to come to some agreement. But I don't think there's any doubt that there is some sort of fracture, because the deal would have been done by now. I don't see, unless you're thinking that Warner Brother or some other media companies is riding in and saying, look, wait, we want to give you a deal here, Pac-12. See, I don't think that's the holdup. I don't think any of that is playing part of the holdup. I think the holdup is internal. They've gotten the offer. George Kliavkoff has gotten the offer from Amazon and ESPN and possibly CBS, possible some primetime games. That thing's been offered. But yet the deal, as far as we know, is not done. I think it has to do internally with the Pac-12. Jesse Wilson, like I've been saying all along, the Pac-10 will be fine and will add 2 more teams. Those 2 more teams, that's a pretty, San Diego State has to be one of them. I think we all agree. We've been talking about it here at Peek Around the Corner for months. We had an early episode way back, I think in the single digits, saying San Diego State's perfect storm. It is their perfect storm to get into a Power 5 conference. But that other team, that 12th team, I think it's really interesting. I think SMU is the favorite for all the reasons we've discussed. A great market for the Pac-12 to penetrate, for the Pac-12 network to penetrate. A highly populated, huge market of Dallas-Fort Worth. I think that's very crucial for the Pac-12 to break in, to get a central time zone school. SMU is a high academic school. They have a high barrier for access to get into SMU, which matches the Pac-12 universities. SMU is not it's not a research university. SMU is not religiously tied as they once were. So that isn't, just kind of like TCU in that aspect. SMU, the money is back in SMU. SMU will be competitive, not just in football, but in other sports. They have a high active booster participation at SMU. Remember, this is a school that used to, we won't go down there. We won't go down that road of bags of cash, but SMU will be competitive. They will support their school. Not a huge fan base, definitely not a huge alumni base like you do have in Pac-12 large research schools. So SMU, that 12th school, they are the chalk. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think Fresno State has their foot in the door. Pac-12, they're losing 2 California schools, 2 Los Angeles schools. I can easily see, I know that there is no relationship. I've been told there is no institutional relationship, really positive institutional relationship between California, Berkeley, and Fresno State. But again, we're not comparing Fresno State to UCLA, California, Los Angeles, and University of Southern California. We're comparing Fresno State to SMU, to UNLV, to Boise State. And if you do that, Fresno State has their foot in the door. I rank them number 2. I rank them ahead of UNLV and Boise State. I think they would have some support, not a great amount of support, but I think they have a shot. And I'm starting to see more and more people talking about Fresno State as having a shot to be the 12th school. But I think it would be very difficult to turn down SMU. I wonder, as University of California, Berkeley, as Stanford, who would you pick? Who would you vote for? Who would be your candidate to push? SMU or Fresno State? I think they'd push Fresno State. Who would University of Washington and Oregon push between SMU and Fresno State? As long as San Diego State is at 11th school, I think Washington and Oregon would want to get into the state of Texas and have it SMU. And then where would Washington and Oregon State go? Where would Utah go? Where would these schools, what candidate would they push? Because that's what this is. And personal relationships count in realignment. They count among the presidents. I think Fresno State would get more backing than most people, I think, would admit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below the video. Sean, as far as the Big 12, if I'm them, I go as hard as I can after Arizona. If they go, then grab San Diego State, opening up the late night kickoff time frame. Plus, you're adding a basketball brand with Arizona. I agree. I just think the chances have diminished over time. Don't think they're going to get Arizona, but that's probably the only domino that they could possibly tip over at this time. Jesse Wilson, I think Peacock deals with WWE as well. Wild Oot, exactly, Sean. Arizona is the linchpin. What if Arizona goes to the Big 12? Does that incentivize Oregon, Washington, Stanford, California, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado break away from Wazoo and Oregon State? Great question. I don't think they would. I don't think that domino tips over any other Pac-12 piece, but we shall see. It might tip over that San Diego State piece. Maybe it tip over the Fresno State piece. I'm not sure. I think, again, heavy chalk that the Pac-12 contains all their 10 universities. I think they're going to make it. I think they're going to make it through this with no more poaching out of the Pac-12. But again, we shall see. Ted, has ESPN made the deal to move Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC in 2024? Or is it still 2025 at this point? It's still 2025 at this point. We've had reports. I can't remember who it was. It was a president. It was UCF president or UCF athletic director. Maybe it was I think it was the athletic director who stated that the Big 12 football schedule would come out Tuesday, which is tomorrow. He said that on Sunday or Saturday. That has proven to be not correct. It's going to come out, the Big 12 football schedule for 2023-24 is going to come out, or 2023 is going to come out by the end of the month. And UCF athletic director said something like, there's still some moving parts. I think the moving parts is Yormark is still trying to get this done, where he's okay with Texas and Oklahoma leaving a year early, but bring back that bacon, bring back that money, bring back that huge exit fee that Oklahoma and Texas would both have to pay to get out a year early. It's going to probably be around $60-50 million for each school. According to the Big 12 bylaws, it should be about $80 million per school. But they'll hammer that down. It'll be about $60-50 million per school. Big 12 would love to have that money. Plus other things that the Big 12 would probably require for this deal to get done. Plus you have Fox Sports that needs to be made whole. They're going to be losing Oklahoma and Texas a year early than scheduled. Then Fox Sports has to get something back in return. They have to get their considerations in return. Still, it's 2025. But I don't think the door has been shut at all. of the potential of Oklahoma and Texas leaving a year early for 2024. Shut up, get out. Phillips must act on behalf of the cannot help schools leave. Illegal. Absolutely. Phillips has to act on the behalf of the conference. He's the commissioner. That's why that post at War Chant made no sense. And it seemed like this ridiculous notion of a potential option of ACC and Big Ten merging, which was said by a guy on Twitter who's just a known troll. It doesn't make any sense at all. Phillips, his job is for the entire ACC, not just for the top half of the ACC. Absolutely ridiculous. You are correct. Shut up and get out. Thanks for coming in once again to peek around the corner. Ted, I don't think Cal academics will want Fresno State. Maybe not. But again, what are you comparing Fresno State to? Boise State? Academics of Boise State? Academics of UNLV? Academics to SMU? It'd be hard pressed to say Fresno State's got it better. But then again, SMU they're not a Pac-12 university type of school either. So it's about who does Fresno State have to beat out for the 12th school? Who does SMU have to beat out for the 12th school? Because I think it's down to those two schools. I don't think Boise State and UNLV are going to make it. It's going to be between SMU and Fresno State for the 12th school, in my heavy opinion on that. Rebecca, San Diego State reached out to Washington's president once. I bet SMU did the same. I bet they did. A lot of disdain for San Diego State from the Pac-12. It's a party school. The students are very crass. Southern Cal, but doesn't draw LA at all. Expect SMU and either UNLV or Tulane for the second invite. Rory thinks it's not San Diego State for the 11th school. Interesting. He thinks Tulane or UNLV. Very interesting. I think San Diego State is a lock. So me and Rory disagree, but that's okay. That's what we do have. Peek around the corner. Rory is saying it's not going to be. A lot of disdain for San Diego State. All right. Rebecca, the money for Arizona to go to the Big 12 isn't going to be enough. Literally, only reason Big 12 and Pac-12 are close to money is Washington and Oregon. Monavision, Mr. Buckeye, nice to see you in the house. No future expansion in the Big 10 without Notre Dame. Probably absolutely correct. Rory McNamara, that's not an issue at all for San Diego State. The purpose of San Diego State is the recruitment of California players, and if it makes the conference more money. And it's not just about the student athletes. It's about the students. Losing those two Los Angeles schools hurts the ability for Colorado, right? For the Arizona schools. They want those California students. San Diego State would help that. San Diego State being in the Pac-12 would help it. The branding of Southern California. You can't compare San Diego State to UCLA and USC. Of course, it's not even close. You can't compare San Diego State to Oregon and Washington, Colorado and Utah. You can't compare it. But I think if the Pac-12 doesn't expand after they get this TV deal done, wow. If they don't expand, if they say they're not expanding, we're going to have a big live show on that issue because that is going to be damaging to the Pac-12. They have got to get back into Southern California with San Diego State. Plus, they should really kick out to Texas, in my opinion. Joe, Stanford and Cal would want UNLV and SMU. because the UC schools look down on on California state schools. They'd rather not have state schools. UNLV and SMU are private, top academic. So Joe is putting in his vote. He believes Stanford and California would go with UNLV and SMU. Very interesting. We're having more diversity than I thought here at Peek Around the Corner chat room tonight, January 16th, on who the two candidates would be, the two top candidates, who the Pac-12 university presidents would expand with. A lot more diversity than I expected. Please smash that like button if you like our content. Please subscribe to our ever-growing channel if you haven't done so. If you subscribe, you get notified. You'll get a chance to see our live show. You get a notification on it. And share the video with your family and friends. If you want to help keep the lights on and get the phone lines in, just hit that $sign. We'll get to your comment as soon as we possibly can. Thank you so very much. Gary, is the only reason the Big Ten isn't grabbing Oregon and Washington is the TV money? No, I don't think that's the only reason. I don't think that's the only reason. I really do believe that Gene Smith, who carries a lot of weight, and other schools in the Big Ten want a pause on expansion. They just want it. And they're looking at the Southeast. I don't think Oregon and Washington are going to stop swinging away. I don't think they will. I don't think they should stop swinging for the fences for a Big Ten invite years down the road. But the Big Ten presidents, Gene Smith, they want a combination of some Southeast ACC schools plus Notre Dame. That's what their vision is on. That was always going to be the end game of the composition of the Big Ten Conference for this generation and probably the next. That was going to be the last domino. Southeast, Big Ten going back to the Southeast because of the demographics, where the student athletes are, for a whole host of other reasons. Plus, Fox Sports. They want to get Big Ten content in the state of Florida, possibly in the state of North Carolina, in Virginia, possibly in the state of Georgia. The only Power 5 content that Fox Sports will have at all to distribute is what? In the Southeast. UCF. Who else? Is that it? So Fox Sports has a desire, a very pressing desire to get to Big Ten, to get Big Ten into the Southeast. And that's why I say, we talk about the hot board list, Big Ten Commission hot board list. If Mark Silverman if he gets announced as Big Ten president, look out and buckle up. We shall see what happens there. 10. If they want to stay academically and get into Texas for recruiting, they could get Rice. The problem with Rice is there's such a small fan base in Rice. That's the problem with Rice. Same thing with Tulane. Tulane has a larger fan base than Rice, but that's the problem with those two universities. Smaller fan bases than SMU. At some point, that has an effect on your candidate to move up to a Power 5 conference. Wild Dude says maybe the Pac should start a conference with soccer-style regulation. Add San Diego State, Fresno, Boise, SMU. Have them start a lower Pac, top 2. People have talked about regulation in college sports for years, and I personally have never bought into it. I don't think there's going to be any regulation. And I think you all know the reason why. Boosters are not going to invest in their schools. Money's not going to be pouring in if you're suddenly relegated to a different level where you don't get the TV money. It doesn't work in this type of space at all. Monovision. What happens first? The Pac-12 signs a new deal or the sun turns into a red giant? I got to think the Pac-12 media deal gets signed first, but when does it happen? Tomorrow? Do we hear the announcement tomorrow? I've been saying this for weeks. Do we hear it tomorrow or the next day or the next day? It's got to happen soon. Ted, Big 12 should be pushing hard for San Diego State now while the Pac-12 media deal is in flux. I think that is more realistic than stealing current Pac-12 schools. I believe that Brett Yormark and San Diego State has had conversations. And they're probably even pushing it. However, you got to remember, in the media deal that the Big 12 signed with ESPN and Fox, the pro rata deal, the pro rata clause in that media deal, it was for Power 5 schools only. So Brett Yormark might not have the leeway, might not have the okay from Fox and ESPN to include a San Diego State in the conference, even if San Diego State takes a discount, right? So I think that's the problem. Bruce Wallace, I think Turner distributes WWE. I think we got an answer on that, Bruce. And I think it was USA Today and Fox. But again, why I brought up the WWE is that media money is tightening. The media companies are not getting the same ad rates as they did before the pandemic. It hasn't worked itself out. So WWE is making money on the right fees, right? That those two media companies are paying. USA, I think, USA and what you all say, Fox. So they're making money. But as they try to sell this WWE, everybody knows once you flip up the hood of the car, the media companies who are given these right fees are taking a huge loss. That was reported in a couple of reports. So therefore, these media companies may not be all that interested in buying WWE. So maybe Vince has to sell it to the Saudi Arabia Investment Fund or to the Khans or somebody that isn't a media company. And I bring that all up because here's the Pac-12 deal. Pac-12 is trying to make a deal with Amazon, who's just laid off people. ESPN, who's just put out a whole bunch of money for all these other deals. Possibly CBS, who just put out a big money for the Big Ten deal. Here's Pac-12 is trying to get a deal done with some things going against them. But one of the bigger things that is going against the Pac-12 is the timing. The media market is tightening. I'm not saying that the media bubble for live sport content is about to burst. I'm not saying that. I would never say that. But at this point in time, as we sit here on January 16th, the media market is definitely tightening. It has tightened. And that's working against the Pac-12 as well. Rory, so the big question, can the Big Ten beat out the SEC for schools in the Southeast? I imagine SEC would invite schools just to keep the Big Ten out. That is a loaded question, a great question, the question, Rory. But to answer that question, we would have to know, when do the ACC schools become available? Will it be in 2033, 34, 35? If that's the case, then the Big Ten would probably have a good shot at claiming a couple of those high-valued Southeast universities. But if the implosion of the ACC happens before early 2000s or the 2030s or the middle of the 2030s, if the implosion happened before that because of reason A, B, or C, then I think the SEC has a stronger hand, because if the implosion happens before, the 2030s, that means that ESPN is probably playing some invisible hand inside the movement of the implosion. That's just my opinion. However, there's other stuff that is going on that I can't talk about at this point. So the SEC, let's be honest. If the ACC implodes for whatever reason, doesn't even matter for what we're discussing right now. The SEC will not be able to keep the Big Ten out of the Southeast. SEC is not going to scoop up every ACC program that's valuable because it wouldn't be as valuable to the SEC as they would be to the Big Ten. The SEC is not going to have Florida, Florida State, and Miami all in the SEC. That would hurt the SEC. That would hurt their slices of pie to the other schools. We could go on, Yes, so the answer to that is yes, the Big Ten will beat out the SEC for some schools in the Southeastern Conference. It might not be Big Ten's target number 1, target number 2, but eventually Big Ten will scoop up somebody. They will get it done at some point. It might take all the way to 2033, 2034, or it might not. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. But that is the Big Ten's goal. And they'll achieve it at some point. With whom? That's for wild speculation. It could go any way at all. We know Jim Delaney has been talking to Bubba Cunningham and the North Carolina Chancellor. We know all that. We've covered it. But we know that North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, is tight with ESPN, which of course owns all the SEC rights, distribution rights. So it could go so many different ways. Ted, how many Big Ten games are planned on Peacock? My Illini will probably be on every one. 8 football conference Big Ten games. No, I don't even know if they're conference games. I think maybe it's just non-conference as well. 8 games. 8 Big Ten games will be on Peacock. Nice new laugh track. Thank you, Roy. Washington and Oregon will build their brands in the next 7 years. They're going to go for the 12-team playoffs. Fox would change their tune as the 12th largest media market. Washington and Oregon are going to keep swinging. We don't know what's going to happen years down the road, but they're going to keep swinging. No doubt about it. Seems like WWE struggles started when UCF and MMA hit mainstream. I don't know anything about that. All I know is the media companies that run WWE content are losing money hand over fist because of the ad rates have dropped. What they could charge for the ad rates have dropped. And I think that's spilling over in other sport content. That's why Pac-12, they got to get this deal done. They got to get it done. They got to get it done now, George Kliakoff. Now, tonight. I'll give you a phone call. Let's get it done. Get it done or it's only going to get worse. Matthew Carlson, come on, everyone. Please hit that like button. Please hit that like button. Appreciate you all so very much. Mona Vision, Mr. Buckeye. Gene Smith will work closely with Jack Swarbrick to welcome Notre Dame into the Big Ten. We talked about what it would mean if Mark Silverman was announced as the Big Ten commissioner. What would it mean if Gene Smith is announced as the Big Ten commissioner? Nobody has a closer relationship with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish than Gene Smith. He's an alumni. He's worked closely with Jack Swarbrick. These guys talk all the time. Gene Smith has said it in interviews in public. So if Gene Smith is named, look out. Remember, the world is going to change once again in 2026. We talk about the battle of 2026, the gold rush of 2026. We do not know what the college football playoffs are going to look like in 2026. We've talked about it over and over again, but I want you all to consider this one major point when it comes to Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You remember when they put out this playoff, this 4-team invitational, right? Each and every year, people are talking about, well, we should expand the playoffs. We should expand the playoffs. We should open it up. We should have other media companies to have the rights to the games, not just ESPN. Every year we go through this cycle. Finally, it was agreed upon that 2024 and 2025 12-team playoffs, top 6 conference champions get an automatic berth. The top 4 ranked conference champions get a bye. 6 at-large berths. All that sits well for Notre Dame. We've gone from 4 at-large berths to 6 at-large berths. All that sits well with Notre Dame. But I want you to consider this major point. When the 10 FBS commissioners were hammering this out for 2024 and 2025, when the 10 FBS commissioners, the 5 Power 5 conferences, and the 5 G5 conferences, and Jack Swarbrick, for those 11 to make a change in the current playoff system, the 4-team invitational, where all 3 games would be played on ESPN, for them to make the change from those 4 to a 12-team playoffs, there had to be total consensus. You had to get a buy-in from all 5 G5 conferences, commissioners. You had to get a buy-in from all 5 Power 5 commissioners, and you had to get a buy-in from Jack Swarbrick. You couldn't lose one of those, else the change wouldn't have happened. So, we just got through a period of time where Notre Dame, where Jack Swarbrick were at their most powerful to induce change. But for 2026 and beyond, for whatever the playoffs look like in 2026 and beyond, whatever the payoff distribution is going to be for 2026 and beyond, it doesn't need a consensus. It doesn't need everybody agreeing on it. It just needs a majority vote. If that. We don't even know who's going to be allowed in the room to vote on it. So Notre Dame's ability to induce change, whatever they want in 2026, is going to be dramatically less than it was the power, the leverage that Notre Dame had, dramatically less in 2026 than it was here in 2022, 21, 2020, 2019. So keep that in mind. So when you see people talking about Gene Smith talking to Jack Swarbrick and people say, well, Notre Dame has no reason to change their football independent. They might not even have a choice. It might be just conferences. It might be just who knows what it's going to look like. Plus, Rebecca Salisbury, Washington Husky fan, and others have pointed out, look at these conferences making these deals or about to make these deals with sports books, getting that new revenue stream where they're going to be these conferences as a bundle. They're going to be sending real-time data and information to these consortiums, these huge umbrellas of sports books coming together and buying this real data from the conferences. These sports books are going to be sending millions and millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars to these conferences to have that real data, to have that accurate injury reports, all that stuff. And then they're going to be branding their sports books as Pac-12 supported or whatever. And Notre Dame's not going to be able to take full advantage of that revenue stream either. Plus the conference NIL deals that are going to be coming down the chute here in the next couple of years. I just want to put that out there once again. Bruce Wallace. Bruce Wallace. SMU invented NIL before it was a thing. Very good, Bruce. Very good. Matthew Carlson. Bruce. So true. Rebecca, just remember, Phil Knight was talking to the SEC about Oregon and Washington. They said no because they wanted to stay regional. But if the Big Ten goes to the South, SEC will go west. Great point, Rebecca. Great point. At some point, even though the SEC is the most powerful conference in college sports, they are. They truly are. Man, they just made a deal in baseball, SEC baseball. We'll get into that in another episode. Maybe I'll get into it tomorrow. But yeah, SEC is so powerful. But yet, if these conferences are going national, SEC is going to probably branch out. Right? And maybe it's Oregon and Washington. How crazy is that? Well, how crazy was it when when USC reached out to Big Ten and Big Ten said, yeah, let's get this done. We don't think that's crazy anymore. But believe me, when I put out that tweet on March 31st, I got condemned. Condemnation everywhere. Not from the people that I gave the information to because they saw things that the public did not see. We knew it was a story. We knew it was happening. But I got ripped. I got absolutely ripped. So, Rebecca says maybe SEC looks at Washington and Oregon. I am not going to rip on Rebecca for saying that. No way, no how. Joe, did NBC ever re-up the Notre Dame contract for $75 million? The report from SBJ, it was $60 million. And no, that hasn't happened yet. Monovision says the SEC will never go non-contiguous. They may not have to, but they may do it. I'm not going to say that it's nuts. That is for sure. Ted says if you read SEC Twitter, you'll see that they're going to poach the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions. I doubt it. I doubt it very, very much. And Rebecca says if the SEC's media partner says do it, it will happen. Monovision saying it will never happen. There's very few things that I will say that never has a chance of happening. SEC going beyond their region, I'm not going to say that's impossible. Not going to do it. Not especially when the Big Ten plans are Big Ten plans are to go in that Southeast region. No way, no how am I going to say it's impossible to do it. We're going to end this live show with that comment. Thank you so much for all of you for coming in to Peek Around the Corner. Tonight, live emergency, Jim Harbaugh staying at Michigan. CJ Stroud leaving Ohio State. Pac-12, are they stalling? What's going on, Pac-12? What's going on, George Kliakoff? Give me a call. Give Greg the Cooler a call on the phone and we'll talk about it. Yes, and the ACC and the Big Ten are not merging. Those crazy stories of today are completely not true. We talked about all the players coming back from Michigan. Oh my goodness. We talked about the Florida State Seminoles. They're humming in the transfer portal. Holy smokes. They're going to be my number 4, number 5 team ranked in the way too early top 25 without a doubt. Thank you for all of you. Smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Please do that. And share the video with your family and friends. We're going to be going live again here in a couple days from now. Hopefully soon we're going to be having the phone lines in. You'll be calling us live. I'm going to give you the floor. You can talk about anything and everything college football because that's what we do here at College Football Peek Around the Corner. You guys direct our live show. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.